Hello, everyone, and welcome to Q&A with SBA. I'm Catherine Orr, and I am the Director of Entrepreneurship with NCRC. One of my functions is to oversee the DC Women's Business Center, which is hosted by a partnership between NCRC and the SBA. Today, we are happy to be joined by Rod Johnson, who is a lending specialist with the District SBA office here in DC. Rod brings his decades of experience in commercial lending and his SBA expertise in disaster assistance. We are very fortunate to have him. We've asked for a couple of questions to be present to us as follow-up from our last Q&A. So I'm going to start with those, Rod, if that's okay with you.
All right, well, let's do this. Let me do a mini presentation because I think it's important that people get some context around the PPP and EIDL that will help answer their questions. All right, so again, my name is Rod Johnson. I'm a lender relations specialist at the Washington Metropolitan District Office for the SBA. And so you may be wondering, what the heck does that mean that I'm a lender relations specialist? Well, what that means is my primary job is to burst open the vault doors of all the banks and credit unions and CDFIs so that they can get money into your hands to sustain and grow your businesses. Now, let me state this. Today is Friday, the 26th of June. The PPP program closes down on Tuesday. I think Tuesday is the 30th of June. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, we have billion dollars left in the PPP program. And so as soon as you get off of this Zoom and you have not applied for PPP, then you need to run on down to City First Bank or go online to to Cabbage, On Deck, Intuit, or PayPal to get your PPP money, okay, in your hands by Tuesday. Also, the EIDL program is open back up. It's been open for about a week and a half. There is $60 billion left in that program, okay? And so you go to the website, to the SBA website, sba.gov, EIDL, and apply for the EIDL loan. And so what's there not to like about EIDL, okay? So if you have full-time and part-time employees, up to 10 employees, not 1099s, W-2s, you get up to $10,000, which is an advance, but it's actually a grant, whether or not you get approved for EIDL. So just apply, name, address, telephone number, EIN number, and within a few days, you check your business checking account and the advance will be in your account. And so now, as we are coming upon the final days of PPP, all of you have questions. And one of the big questions is forgiveness, okay? So no, you don't have to say any Hail Marys, okay, on the rosary bead. What you need is good documentation, all right? The documentation is going to make the difference on whether you get partial forgiveness or full forgiveness. So as you know, when the program first rolled out on March 27th of this year, and the first interim ruling came out on April 2nd, that 75% of the PPP money had to be used for payroll, and the remaining 25% had to be used for rent, lease, interest on a commercial mortgage, fuel, or transportation. Let me define what transportation is. It's actually gasoline that you're putting in your car for business purposes, okay? So that's transportation. The internet, your business phone, whether that's a landline or a cell phone, gas, water, and electric. So that was the other 25% that you were to use the money for. On June 5th, President Trump actually signed into law the Ppp Flexibility Act, okay? And what that did was it said, now, instead of using 75% of the PP money for payroll, 60% of the money can be used for payroll, and the other 40% for the utilities that I just named. Also, as of June 5th, you now have up until December 31st to hire back and to use up all the money that you have received from PPP. If you received a PPP before June 5th, your 8 weeks from the date that the money was funded into your account applies. If you still haven't used up all the money, go ahead and give Johnny, Susie, and Ishmael a little bonus for coming back to work, and that way you can use up all the money, okay? Now, the forgivable part. There are two forms. There's the Forgivable EZ form, which really should be used by the single member LLC, the 1099 miscellaneous, and the sole proprietor. I mean, it's just real easy paper to fill out. You're going to submit along with that form, either your Schedule C, right? Your Schedule C is a single member LLC or sole proprietor, or if you're a 1099, you're just going to hand in the 1099 statement along with your short form, your easy form. And then there's the long form for companies that have a lot of employees. And you're going to submit your 941s and a bank statement showing how you have used those funds, okay? Now, I see a question that what is the credit score or FICO score for an idle? Well, I've been brought up to date today. I've been telling people 600 is actually 570. 570 for the idle, okay? Now, if you get fined because of your credit score and you want to reapply, I mean, you're going to have to meet the minimum score, right? So it generally, if you're working on improving your credit, that's typically a 90-day process. So hopefully idle will still be around in 90 days and we haven't run out of the $60 billion. So yes, you can reapply if you meet the minimum requirement. Okay, so let's see, another question says, I have yet to receive the $1,000 advance, but I have received a notice. Okay, so you received a correspondence from the Office of Disaster Assistance. Everything is fine. So they will notify you. What they're going to do is send you out the promissory note, the loan agreement, and then you have a certain amount of time to, sign and send the forms back. At that time, if you haven't received your advance, then that's the time to actually ask about the advance, because generally you receive the advance first before you receive the loan. So if you haven't received the advance, go ahead and actually, while you're waiting, you can call 1-800-659-2955, have your reference number ready, okay, for them, and they can look it up for you. It's every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I have found that if I call between the hours of 8 and 9 a.m. and 7 to 8 p.m., that you stand a better chance of getting a person on the phone. Or you can email, if you like emailing, you can do disaster customer service at sba.gov. And again, you're going to, use your reference number that you received when you applied for EIDL. Now, let's see. When I looked at the forgiveness application, it was not all that clear and did not seem to include my business type LLC. The actual EZ form does. So just look at the EZ form. I think the forms came out about a week ago, actually last Thursday. The EZ and the long form came out last Thursday. Go to the Department of Treasury or the SBA website to take a look at those two forms. Now, if you need assistance actually filling out the form, of course, you have your Women's Business Center, you have the guys at SCORE, you have your Small Business Development Centers, and then, of course, the V-Box, right, for the veterans. By the way, you don't need to be a woman to take advantage of the services of the Women's Business Center. All right, let's do the credit score. Are there any other questions? I don't see any other questions in the chat. Are there any more questions in the Q&A that I'm missing?
I see a couple. If I use more than 75% for payroll, is that forgivable under the new terms?
Oh, well, let me state this. You can use 100% of the money for payroll. You don't have to have the 60-40 or 75-25. You can actually use 100% of it for payroll. So that's okay. Now, let me be clear, because I'm getting a lot of questions about this over the last week. No, you cannot use the money for business development, for marketing, for expansion, for website development, okay? It's specifically for payroll and meeting your operating expenses. All the other stuff, you need to go get to your bank and apply and get an SBA 7A loan. And under that scenario, up until September 27th of 2020, the SBA on your behalf will pay the principal, interest, and fees on that new 7A, 504, or microloan for you. And that's part of the debt relief under the CARES Act.
When I began to work again, I worked from home. I want to confirm that my apartment/utilities are covered expenses and thus can be forgiven from the beginning of the loan term forward.
Really? As John McLaughlin would say, wrong. Okay. I don't know if many of you guys remember him. He used to be a show that came on Saturday evenings and talk about the social issues of the day. And his favorite word was wrong. All right. So is there an agreement between you and your company? The answer is probably no. Now, here's the other thing. Typically, if you're working from your home, you're deducting just about everything, right? So let's just say, like myself, I actually have a home office, and it's a 9x9 space, okay, in my basement that was built as a home office. So I'm actually deducting that, I'm actually writing it off as part of my business expense. My cell phone and my landline phone, which are used for business, that's being written off, okay? But so that can be written off under PPP. The internet can be written off under PPP. The water, electric, water, electric, and air, right? Heat can be written off under PPP. But typically that's when you have a lease payment on a space. It's not being used for your home office. So you can't double dip. You can't have the deduction on your Schedule C, right? And use the PPP money to be paying that. That can't be done. So just keep that in mind. But your CPA will work through with you the things that you have to work through for that. If you don't have a lease between you and your company, okay, then no, that PPP money can't be used for that.
Joelle asks, I am an LLC with no employees. I don't really understand how this EIDL or PPP program can benefit me. It doesn't seem worth it if it has to be paid back with interest.
Okay, EIDL. You get $1,000 just for applying, okay? It's called an advance, and you don't have to do anything for it to be forgivable. It's just that you've written down your name, number, and EIN, and automatically you're going to get $1,000, whether or not you apply for a loan with EIDL. So yes, it is worth it for you. Okay, the PPP, why not? You have a forgivable loan. In your case, all you have to do is submit your Schedule C. And as long as you're showing how you are able to use the money to spend on the things that I've named, right? The gas, electric, water, phone bill, fuel for the car that you're using for business purposes, the internet, it's 100% forgivable as long as you're using it for the purpose that's stated. So with PPP, you're going to get a loan that's forgivable. And then for EIDL, just writing your company's name down in the EIN, you're going to get $1,000 for that. And who has ever heard of getting a commercial loan that has a 30-year payback period, and you don't have to make a payment on that loan for 12 months? I think it does benefit you while you're trying to get through COVID-19.
I think that's all of the questions that were sent in and so far have been submitted.
Now,
if anyone has anything.
Now I'm exhorting everyone, you cannot just let this $160 billion sit there. So go and apply. I mean, it's so easy. In fact, look, both of them you can apply online. So you go for the PPP, you pull up Cabbage, you apply online. SBA.gov for EIDL, you're going to the SBA website, SBA.gov, and you're applying. You don't even have to go anywhere, okay, to apply for this money to help sustain your business. Here's what the beauty of it is to me. So we're all going into DC, Maryland, and Virginia is going into phase 1, phase 2, I think phase 3 on Monday, okay? So now you're able to generate revenue. And so now some of that revenue can offset some of your operating expenses. And now you have this PPP money and this EIDL money that can help buttress your position, right? So that you don't run out of cash. So to me, it makes sense that if you haven't applied, that you go ahead and apply for this money to help you with your operating expenses as we're reopening in phase 1, 2, and 3. Look, even if the PPP money winds up being a loan, then it's at 1% interest. Now, I know in my lifetime, and I'm an old guy, I haven't ever seen a 1% interest on a loan. If you're a nonprofit, you're getting below market interest rate at 2.75%. And then at 3.75%, that's actually a pretty good rate for a company. So I think even if you have to repay back a loan, particularly for idle, and it's over 30 years, it's worth it. And for PPP, if the worst is all of it isn't forgivable, let's just say only 50% is forgivable, it's a 1% loan over 5 years. What's there not to like? There's no collateral. There's no personal guarantee. For PPP, they're not even pulling your credit report. Go get the money. Let's get some more greenbacks on the street in the DMV.
I've got another question. Can I use the PPP toward the subscription of a co-working space?
Oh, okay, so that's, you're going to use that. Now let's hopefully that you're actually going to be there and use the office. Okay. But if you're, well, hopefully you're there now. Okay. Hopefully you're there now, and this is not one of those things you're looking to do. So it's a legitimate expense. It is. That's part of your rent or lease expense that you're paying. And of course, you're going to supply the copy of that lease when you ask for forgiveness and show that you've been paying on that lease, most importantly.
I received PPP, but our business didn't decrease as expected. What do I do? Do I return the funds? How do I return the funds?
But the business, now remember the purpose for this is to retain your employees, okay? So use the money to retain your employees. I'm assuming that there was a 941 that you submitted to the bank to get the funds. So as long as you're keeping those people on the payroll, then you're fine. As long as you can show that you've kept people employed and on the payroll, you're fine. And by the way, if you haven't used all the money, you know, you can give Yosef and Sally and Noor and Asila a little bonus for coming to work, whether that's $250, $300, not yourself, the owner, but your employees, you can give them a little bonus if you have some money left over, you haven't used it all, okay? Call it a retention bonus.
Cynthia asks, can I get a loan for purchasing real estate for my business?
Well, as we know, PPP and EIDL is not used for that. But as I stated a few minutes ago, under the Debt Relief Act, 7A, 504, or microloan, you go to your bank, you apply for one of those loans, and the SBA on your behalf for 6 months will pay the principal, interest, and any fees for that loan for the first 6 months. So let's do a quick review. You get a new 7A, 504, or microloan. The SBA is going to pay on your behalf for that loan for 6 months. So that helps your cash flow. For the EIDL loan, you don't pay on that loan for 12 months. That helps your cash flow. For the PPP, if it turns into a loan, you're not paying on that sucker for a year, okay? Then if you have a non-SBA loan, like a line of credit or a term loan or commercial mortgage with a bank, then you're approaching your bank and asking for a 6-month deferment. So that assists with your cash flow. So I'm seeing all this cash flow being augmented by under the CARES Act and debt relief, and you know, and hopefully you guys have applied for state and municipal loans and grants. And once you cobble together the federal money and the state municipal money, then really you should have enough cash on hand to help sustain you through this COVID-19 pandemic.
Cynthia asks, and I guess this is for Sade, if when we will be posting the recording of this webinar on our online. So I would say next week, I'm guessing. I'll get in trouble.
Well, probably Monday or Tuesday.
If I pick the wrong, yeah, I'm just gonna go with next week.
Yes.
Okay, Jerusalem's got a question. As a self-employed / independent contractor with no employees with a home office, idle and or 7A would make the most sense,
Well, it
right?
depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, a 7A, so why is 7A? Why would that be the thing to do? Now, you
Jerusalem,
say,
do you want to unmute and fill in?
because remember, idle is not for expansion. Idle is for you to help meet your payroll, which is you. It sounds like you're a 1099 miscellaneous person. So really, you're going to pay yourself. So you're going to take the money out of your business checking. In the memo line of your check, you're going to put payroll to me, and then you're going to put that in your personal checking account, okay, so that you can have the paper trail. And then you're going to have money that's used for your expenses that we've already discussed, and you don't have to make a payment on loan for 1 year. Now, the 7A, okay, well, you can use the 7A if you're looking to expand. You can use the 7A for a line of credit, or you can use the 7A to purchase real estate, or you can use, you can use the 7A for business development, for marketing, to enhance your website. I mean, the 7A has a lot of flexibility with its use, and it goes up to $5 million, and the bank receives an 80% guarantee. Excuse me, 75% guarantee.
Jerusalem, I see that you're on. Would you like to ask another question?
Yeah, that actually was very clarifying. I have a quick follow-up. So for idle, it's very similar to PPP, and as far as what you're able to use as an expense. So no marketing and no website for idle or PPP.
No.
7A, however, it's micro lending that I could use towards that.
Well, there's a difference between 7A and micro lending. Let's not make a mistake there. So micro lending goes up to $250,000. The 7A goes up to $5 million.
Wow.
So if you just need a micro loan, then you can go to the Latino Economic Development Corp, and you don't have to be a Latino or Latina, or you can go to the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, and they can give you a community advantage loan or micro loan.
Got it. Okay. And one more quick question. I'm sorry. When you were describing the idle, how that could be a benefit, you were saying as a self-employed person, upon receiving it, I could set aside to pay myself a certain amount.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you? The beauty of this is you get $1,000 grant just for writing the company's name down, okay? And then let's just say you get the loan, a loan, then you're going to use those funds to actually pay yourself. Just write your check out of your business checking into your personal checking to show how you're using the funds. Absolutely, pay yourself.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, Jerusalem. Cynthia wants to know, she'd like your recommendations for the best banks for minority business women to get a 504 or 7A.
Oh, the best banks, huh? All right. So,
or CDFIs, I'm sure she doesn't mind.
So you can go to City First and ask for Gloria Norton. You can go to Industrial Bank and ask for Milton, oh gosh, I forget Milton's last name, Milton Franklin at Industrial Bank. You can go to Bank of America and ask for George Tawia. And by the way, you can tell all these people I sent you. You can go to JP Morgan and ask for Akil Stinson. And well, those are enough, yes, because I've given you a variety in terms of size of bank to choose from. Oh, wait a minute, I can't forget Main Street Bank down there on Connecticut Avenue, Shanton Kitten. Now I know all these people, they'll take good care of you. But you have to give them a full package, okay? You got to give them a full package so that they can get this thing processed quickly.
Holly says that her SCORE mentor told her that she could not use her idle loan to pay herself at the same time she's getting the unemployment PUA.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Once you get the idle money and you start paying yourself, you are off of unemployment. You can't double dip.
Okay.
That $1,000 a week though feels good, doesn't it, from unemployment? But no, once you start paying yourself, you have to get off of unemployment.
That's it so far for our questions.
Now, here's a program that hasn't gotten much, fanfare, and that is the Federal Reserve's $600 billion, I repeat, $600 billion loan fund, okay? It's run by the Federal Reserve. You have to have, the minimum loan amount is $250,000. You can have up to 15,000 employees. The loan amount is up to $150 million. You get a 4-year repayment term. The interest rate is 2.5% to 4%. And yes, you do have collateral and a personal guarantee. So it is like going to a bank and applying for a regular loan. You can have an idle loan and a PPP loan. So those two facilities don't preclude you from applying for this loan program. So far, the banks that are participating in the program are Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and JP Morgan. They're hoping to get other banks soon to sign on to offer this loan product to business owners.
Holly's got a follow-up. She wants to know if she can hold the amount in her business account until her unemployment ends.
Once you have the idle funds, you go off of unemployment. You do not want to get in trouble.
I like her thinking.
I'd hate to see you in the headlines, and I think I think you've seen in the headlines when people are not using idle and the PPP, what's happening with them.
Good try, though. I like that. Be creative. Figure out how we can get more.
Yes, you get more by going to the Main Street Loan Program. The good old American way, get in debt. And repay the debt.
Holly, do you want to get on and unmute yourself? She's got a lot of follow-ups.
So I gave you the telephone number for idle. Yeah, didn't I? No? Did I give the telephone number and the
Disaster customer service?
Yeah, at SBA.gov. Yes. Okay, good.
Oh, hi, Holly. Yes, but the SCORE mentor told me that I could use those funds to pay like my overhead, the rent and utilities this month, and for the idle loan, and not pay myself until I don't have the unemployment anymore.
Remember, the unemployment, I mean, once you got the loan, remember, you're not supposed to be double dipping. I'll say it again. You're not supposed to be double dipping.
So the idle loan is not just for payroll, correct?
As I've mentioned earlier, I've mentioned the expenses that you can use the idle loan for.
Oh, I thought that was a PPP loan you were talking about.
Idle, the only difference between idle and PPP is that you have a percentage with PPP, 60-40. You don't have that percentage with idle.
Okay.
Same expenses, same expenses.
Okay. Well, I'm not talking about very much with the idle loan, to be honest. I mean, did you get your $1,000? Yes.
Good.
But with the idle loan, you were mentioning there's so much more out there. What if you, I mean, the amount that I have is not enough to, I mean, do people apply to get more from the idle loan, or it's just a one-time application?
Well, if you're self-employed, the formula that's being used, it would be unlikely that you would get more money.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Kim Alfonso has a couple of questions. Kim, can you unmute and ask your questions? Kim? I'm going to take that as a no. So I'm looking. Oh, there she is. Unmute, Kim.
Kim.
Can you hear me now?
Hi, yes.
Okay, hi. Okay, and I apologize. So I got a PDP, and I'm really pleased and just blessed that I did. I'm scared to touch it. So my question is, it's my understanding that 75% can go to salaries, but I just heard you say something about 60%. So did something change? And the second is, I got it as self-employed. I opened up a separate bank account to put the money in that's sitting there.
Good.
How do I use it? Am I writing a check to what? To the other personal account I have for my salary? And then the final question would be, it's my understanding also that it extends through the end of the year. I just got it about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. So there's nothing for you to be afraid of. You already have your documentation. Did you say, are you a 1099 or sole proprietor?
1099.
All right. So see, you already have the documentation. So you have your 1099. In fact, what you're going to do is fill out the EZ forgiveness form. Okay. Because what you're going to do is you're going to pay yourself. You're going to put in the memo line, payroll for me. Just payroll me. Okay. You're going to put that into your personal checking account. And that's how you're paying yourself. You can use 100% of the PPP money for payroll if that's what you want to do.
Excellent.
And it'll be 100% forgivable.
You've made my day. I tell you, Kathy, this has been my day.
I'm so glad. Yay.
All right. Thank you so much.
We don't hear that a lot, so thank you so much, Kim.
Yes.
I've got a question. I made a rental payment before getting PPP funds. Can I make that a part of the expenses?
PPP and beyond, not back. It's forward.
Sherry Hooks, do you want to get on and ask your question? Unmute. Sherry? I guess not.
You'll come back.
She's got a few. So I see I think the latest one. If you are on disability and you apply for EIDL and the PPP, can you apply if you are on disability? She has a consulting business.
I haven't heard that you couldn't apply because you're on disability.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Damn it. Hello?
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, sorry. I was in a hurry trying to connect before I lost you all. Thank you again. And much like the other young lady said, you guys are a blessing. You have made my day, my year. I try to each one teach one. I have been screaming this from the heavens, but also working on myself. As a small disadvantaged IT company here in the district, I'm also a CBE. Yay, that was a process. But as I'm going through the EDIL and the PPP, I'm less afraid from what I heard today because I was afraid to do that. But I'm asking this question for my mother. She's a consultant also, but she does her, she also gets disability. So can she still apply for the PPP even though she gets a portion of disability, or that has nothing to do with what her consultant company does?
If her consulting company was injured, economically injured, that's it.
Okay. She just was scared saying, you know, I get disability. Is that going to affect me or hinder me from getting the PPP? I know it didn't from what I read as the EDIL, but yes, her company did do that. And she's now having to do, like, say, for instance, her notary stamp digital, you know, because that suffered a lot during that, you know, during these times. So I think she's on a good start too. But could you mention the banks one more time? I was scurrying trying to write it down, and by Tuesday it will be too late. And I won't have proof to tell people, hey, I know this to be true. And I'm sad to say this, but sometimes in the African-American community, by lack of knowledge, we're afraid of a lot of things. And by a person like you from the SBA and the group for the Women's Business Program that are really enlightening a lot of people. And I just like to pass on the word, but I like to do my due diligence and make sure I have correct information.
We appreciate that, Sherry.
Yes. So could you give me the Bank of America, the Chase Corp again? I was driving, leaving a person, so I couldn't write everything down.
So is this one for the 7A or is it for PPP?
For the PPP and the 7A. I think you gave the list for the 7A. I don't know. Tell me which one you were giving when you were saying Industrial Bank and Chase Morgan.
Yeah, okay. So that was for the 504. That was for the 504. And actually, you can use the same ones for the 7A.
Okay.
Yes.
And it
Now
was
the
Bank of
PPP.
America. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, let me back up. So you got Bank of America, JP Morgan,
Okay.
City First, and
City First.
Industrial.
City First and Industrial. Okay.
And Main Street Bank.
And Main Street. Yeah, that was the one I heard.
So they can do both the 504 and 7A.
Okay. And then what about the PPP?
All right. Well, at this point, it's going to be City First.
City First or Cabbage? But you would prefer City
Cabbage
First?
or On Deck.
Okay.
And see, today is Friday.
Yeah.
You're cutting it close for the bank.
I
Okay.
know. So it might have to be
So for
Cabbage.
On Deck or Cabbage, I think you'll be fine.
Okay. But cutting it close for the bank, because you said that package needs to be complete and submitted to them that same day. So I would have needed to do that today, this morning.
Yep.
Okay. And I don't know if City First is open on Saturday, so.
You know what? I don't know.
Okay. But just for good banking, they're probably solid banks to go to. And what was the person's name at City First or Industrial?
Yeah, Gloria Norden.
Gloria
NAU.
Norden.
And then Milton Franklin.
And then Milton
Franklin.
And what was the name at Main Street?
Shanton Kittler. Kittler.
Kittler. And JP Morgan? Chase?
Akil, which is Aquil Stinson.
Stenson or Sen?
Stinson.
And Bank of America?
George Tawia. Tawiah.
Great. Thank you so much. I got on this in the first bandwagon. They asked me to verify my bank. EDIL wrote me back and asked to verify my banking information. I think I put down my personal account, and from what I was reading, so they said verify. So now I'm going to verify with my banking information from my business. Is that correct? Let me take my whooping.
Yes, because see what happens, and you know what? This is the common mistake. I'm glad you raised that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people are putting their personal account. So what happens is they get a decline because you've applied in the business name, but yet you gave them a personal checking account instead of the business checking account. So then they'll say, well, you've been declined for unverifiable information.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now, I was told my credit was low. Now, a lot of YouTubers, and I only try to go to the more credible ones like the CPAs and the other people that have kind of been through the struggle and fighting, the good fight. You have to have your banking information. But my cousin, for instance, down in Florida says, oh no, if you're sole proprietor, you can do your personal checking account. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Even if you're sole proprietor and you're doing business as ABC, then it needs to have ABC on that checking account.
Okay, now if you're doing business as yourself, if you're saying John Scott Consulting, could it go in John Scott's account?
Then if you're using your social security number, okay. If you have an EIN number, that's a different story.
Business. That makes sense to me because that's what I've been preaching, but I didn't hear that from somebody like you that, has been in the business to know what can be done and can't be done. So very good. EIN, banking information has to be that way. Now, do you know once that's been corrected, do I need to call or just tell them that it tells me to go back in the portal, not the portal, go back and correct it?
Yes, go back and correct it.
Okay, so just go back and correct it with that information. Okay, very good.
Yes,
I actually have a meeting with Bank of America because something went wrong with my BB&T banking account for the business. So I'm now going back to Bank of America. I have an appointment tomorrow morning, but it's not with George, it's with another gentleman. But he explained to me the different programs that Chase has for business. So even with a lot of people that may be struggling for business credit, and I know the microloans help out a lot with that. Like someone asked the question before, just letting people know at least what I was told. You can tell me if you've heard this, he let me know that he can help build the profile of the bank credit based on the EIN of the business, of course, which are DUNS and all the other numbers. But is that kind of true of what they do, or do you know what they do?
They're just using DUNS. They're using DUNS.
Okay, to help build that. Okay. Because in limelight of knowing this, we need to know, to be stronger, that your credit, like you said, what was it, 570 or something? It needs to be at least at a certain rate, so you can feel confident that you can get these loans and not go back in a hole somewhere and be afraid of it. So I'm going to work on it on both of those ends. Okay, very good. That was good to know that they didn't base it on my credit. At least that's what the gentleman told me at Chase.
That's right. That's
question,
absolutely correct.
Sherry.
That's correct.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
You're
you
very,
guys.
very welcome.
I'm sorry to take over. I'm sorry, but I
ask questions. I'm sure that someone else wanted to know as well.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
Thea Brown, can you unmute, please, and share your question? Thea? There's Thea. Unmute, Thea.
It's Thea or Tia?
Hi, Thea. Thea,
Okay.
How are you? I'm not sure.
All right.
Okay, hi. So I actually just finished completing the IDLE, but I had a question. I guess my question kind of changed. So I had a question regarding the PPP. So all of the banks that I know you said to go to Cabbage, but when I went to Cabbage, it did ask something about, because I 1099 I guess they're not my employees, they're my contractors, I guess. So I 1099 them, and I actually have been paying them half, even though we just reopened last week, Saturday, but I've been paying them like half of their salary just on my own. Just because
okay. On your own. That's key. On your own.
Yeah, on my own. So so the question asked if there are W-2s, and I don't W-2 them. Can I still apply for the PPP?
Yes.
Okay.
So what kind of entity are you? A single member or sole proprietorship?
I'm a I'm a single member. I'm a single member LLC.
All right. So
but I do a Schedule C. I
was going to say you get a Schedule C, so that's going to be your documentation.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go back to Cabbage and plug away, and just see what happens. But I did finish the IDLE though, so thank you for that information. I just found out about it yesterday. I didn't even know it existed.
Yesterday.
Yeah. Well, the IDLE one, the grant one.
Really?
I didn't know. Yeah.
We're trying our best.
I know, but I kind of, before COVID happened, I actually worked with the Women's Business Center, and I actually got my first loan through the Women's Business Center that I completed paying off last September. But my goal was always to do like an import-export bank. So I've been building myself up to kind of work for that. And then COVID happened. So it's kind of like an intermediate step for, lending for me. But thank you for having this. And it's been very helpful because, like I said, I didn't know about it until I got that email earlier this week.
And we've been sending you others, Thea.
So here's the question. Where do you bank?
We will continue to send them. So keep an
eye. I will continue, and I will contact you. And I do refer people to the Women's Business Center all the time. But I bank with Wells Fargo.
Oh, okay. Then you're fine with the export stuff. Okay, good.
Okay.
Thea.
Yes.
I've got another question. What are some common application mistakes that we should avoid?
The biggest one is people, what we just talked about, is putting their personal accounts down when they really should be putting their business checking account number down. That one is the biggest one right there, because here it is, you've gone through and they've approved you only for you to be declined because they can't verify the information. So that's really the biggest one. The second one is for IDLE, that you haven't demonstrated that you have been economically injured, okay? So what happens, then they want additional paperwork, so then you have to send them now your 531 2020 balance sheet and income statement, the 29 tax return, and the 2018 tax return, so that they can see the trend that you've been injured. Those are the two biggest.
I was offered an SBA loan. This is not forgivable from what I understand. This can be used for any business expense. Do I need to keep records of what the funds are going to, and do I need to present these records to someone over the next 30 years?
Well,
Also,
wait a minute. So first, what kind of SBA loan did she get?
come on down, Kim.
Because, you know, it could be a 7A, it could be a 504, it could be a microloan, it could be an international trade, it could be a PPP, it could be an EIDL. So which SBA loan?
Kim, are you unmuting?
Let's get to the bottom of Kim's question.
Now you scared Kim from coming forward. Okay. Kim also writes that she has never gotten the EIDL advance. She's called and written, but no response.
Keep doing it, because that's the only way.
She applied early April, and other colleagues have gotten theirs who applied at the same time.
Yeah, well, she needs to keep calling and emailing. They'll come to her. They'll get to her.
Kim,
Remember, there were 5.8 million applications for EIDL. That's why we had to close that puppy down for a month to try to catch up. So, and that's why we just reopened about a week and a half ago. So your turn is coming. You'll get funded. Don't worry.
Okay. Oh, Kim, I saw you unmuted.
Okay. Oh, can you hear me now?
Barely.
Oh, let me speak it.
Is that better?
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go, Kim.
Okay. Yeah, which loan did well, let's see here.
That's important. That's important. I want to be able to answer the question correctly for you.
Right. Let me just see if I can find the
I'm thinking it's that EIDL loan. That's what I'm thinking, but you got to confirm it for me.
Okay.
You look, and then I'll ask another question. How about that?
Okay. Okay.
I have not filled out taxes for 2018 or 19. Do I need to file before I apply?
Yes, that's the only way you're going to show injury, economic injury. For EIDL. PPP, you don't have to do that. But for EIDL, yes.
Kim, I have another question. Are you still looking?
I found it. It looks like it is an EIDL
Yep.
loan.
Okay.
I mean, I completed all the steps. I didn't do the last step where accepted because I had questions and I didn't want to just sign my life away. So, but it was hard for me to get through to somebody. So I'm glad you are having this today. Thank you.
All right. What's the question?
Well, the question is, for one thing, do I need to, so this particular loan can only be used for business expenses, not business expansion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And do I need, when I was reading the, the terms of the loan, do you need to keep records and present them to someone at some point, or how does that work?
It's just a 30-year loan. Now, the SBA reserves the right, so you need to keep those records for 6 years, just like you do tax returns for 7, right? So
Okay.
Because the SBA reserves the right to, call you up, Kim, and say, show me
Right.
how you use the money.
Okay.
So keep those good records.
And that would have to go into, because I'm just in the process of opening a new a business account. Should I wait to accept the loan until I have that account? Because otherwise it's going to go into my personal account, and I've been listening to you telling people that's a bad idea.
No. Oh no, Kim. All right, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to go online at whatever bank and get that account open.
Okay.
Okay, please.
And then now, is there a cutoff time? Because the last email I got from them a couple of days ago saying that they needed this to be completed, or they were going to withdraw the offer.
Exactly.
But when is that cutoff date?
Well, they should tell you in the letter, right? You don't have much time. Sometimes they give you like 48 hours.
Okay. Ooh. It doesn't really say. It just says failure to complete these steps will result in your application being withdrawn. Then it just says
Well,
questions. We're here to help.
because one letter that got a copy of that got sent to me gave them 48 hours to get that checking account open.
Mm. So,
So go online somewhere and open that business checking account.
okay.
We don't want you to
Now,
lose out on the money, Kim, because you gave them your personal checking account number.
right, gotcha. Glad I talked to you today. So, and then if I'm getting this loan, then I can't file any more unemployment claims.
Can't double dip, Kim. Can't double
Okay.
dip.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your help.
That's a lot of interest. Oh, you're very welcome. Next question. Can you talk more about how you show in documentation that your business was economically injured?
Yeah, see, that's what those tax returns and your interim financial statements will show, okay? Because hopefully we'll see a big drop off from 2019 to, your May 31st financial statement. So let's just say, I'll just throw a number out. Let's just say you do $1 million, you did $1 million in 2019 in revenue. Well, as of May 31st, you may have only done $100,000 in revenue, right? For the first 5 months of the year. That's obvious that you've been injured by COVID-19. Even if you show $300,000 in revenue compared to $1 million, when you do the project out for 12 months, you've been injured. So that's your financial statements or tax returns are going to actually be the key to showing that you've been injured.
Do we have to pay taxes on EIDL or PPP?
Well, PPP is a non-taxable grant, okay? As long as 100% of it gets forgiven. I'm trying to remember for EIDL if that is tax-free. And you know what? That's a good question. I don't remember that off the top of my head. I know where the answer is. It's on the SBA website under the frequently asked questions. But that question I don't get too much. I get it for the PPP. That one I know off the top of my head, but for EIDL, I don't remember if it's tax-free grant. But it's under frequently asked questions that just came out about 2 days ago, and it's on the SBA website and the Department of Treasury.
Is there a penalty for paying the loan back early?
For EIDL, absolutely not. You can prepay. Not even for, frankly, the PPP.
Do you have to use the EIDL loan funds by a certain time?
No. See, that's why I was a big proponent of EIDL early on, because there was no 8-week restriction, right? There is no 24-week December 31st restriction. That's why I liked EIDL. Oops. Yep, here we go.
I understand that both EIDL and PPP are for payroll, and I think you're saying that you should apply for both. Is that right, or should you
Yes.
one and
Yes.
the other?
Yes, absolutely. Why wouldn't you? PPP gets forgiven at the end of the day, and then in EIDL you get a grant, right, just for applying, and then you get a 30-year loan if you get a loan.
Okay, I think.
Let me see something. I'm going to do some down and dirty math here. So let's just say you get a $30,000 loan for EIDL, right? And that's at 3.75% interest over 30 years. So what's the monthly payment on that puppy? $138.93 a month. And that's on $30,000. Okay. And you don't have to pay that for 12 months. So I'd like to think a year from now that your business will be up and hopefully operating at full capacity, and your business would be able to afford, in this case, $138.93 on $30,000 borrowed. Like you spend $138 a month on, taking your wife or husband out to dinner. So yeah, that's very affordable.
I work for a large hospital as a nurse, and I have not been called in due to COVID. They are obliged to me a minimum contract as they have received a stimulus check. Is it too late to apply for unemployment.
All right, so you haven't, all right, so basically you haven't been able to go back to work, right? Okay, unemployment, here you come, but good luck with it, right? Because it's taking ages and ages to actually receive it. I would have actually gone for the EIDL myself, but hindsight's 2020.
I have some questions about how to unmute. If you look at your picture on the checkerboard, there's a mute button at the top right. There's also on the bottom, there's the bar where you in your chat and look at the participants. On the far left of that bar, there's the microphone icon, and you can unmute that way as well.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Good, yes, you have me totally scared now. I'm having a panic attack about the double dipping on the EIDL and the unemployment. I just want to get it clear in my head here, because if I'm not touching the EIDL and it's in my business account, checking account, and I'm paying my utilities, my rent, those things that you mentioned, I'm not paying myself with the EIDL loan right now. I am collecting unemployment. Is that double dipping? Because I've tried to contact the unemployment office repeatedly for the last 2 weeks, and nobody ever responds to me, and I've been very clear about me getting an EIDL loan. So what do you recommend?
You're not paying yourself, you're paying utilities. So, okay.
Okay.
Then you're fine. You're double dipping when you're paying yourself and collecting unemployment.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay. Attack averted, huh, Holly? Can you breathe in?
Yes.
Good. Okay. It is 4:02, and I don't see any more questions.
No more questions? Oh man, this is fun. I like this better than giving the presentation. This way I'm actually answering the questions that you guys have that really assist you and hopefully put your mind at ease. That's the big thing. Because I think one of you guys said, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to use the money. No, don't be afraid to use the money. You have the money to sustain your business so that you can get through this COVID-19. That's exactly why these programs have been rolled out, okay? So don't be afraid to use the money. Use the money. Just keep very good records of how you're using the money. That's all.
I've got a question. Myrtle, do you want to unmute and ask your question? I don't see this. I can't find her. I can't find your question in the chat, Myrtle, so unmute. There she is.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, how are you? Okay, so my question was actually in the Q&A. I put it in the wrong place. So, Mr. Johnson, you stated recently that it's PPP and beyond, and I had applied for an EIDL loan in April. Recently received a decline letter, but now preparing to reapply because I was under the impression that the credit score required was 600, and you've just stated that it's 570, so I'm in actually a better position. So, as I'm currently receiving UI and PUA to keep me and my business afloat, will I be able to offset these paid business expenses with the EIDL once received or not?
All right. So when you got declined for credit, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. So now all right. So, but you're above the now lower threshold.
Right, because, yeah, exactly, because I just,
okay. All right. So now you get the EIDL loan, you're going to reapply, you're going to get the EIDL loan, you're going to get that $30,000 I talked about. And so now you're going to use it according to what I've been talking about the last hour.
Okay, you said 30,000? I didn't.
No, it was actually kind of a joke.
Oh.
But,
okay.
But you're going to be using it toward the expenses that I've mentioned for the last hour,
okay.
Right?
Right.
Yes, that's how you're going to use it. That's fine. And then, you got 30 years to pay it back.
So everything that I paid for is through my business bank account, so it's all there. So I'm good.
Good. All right. So then there'll be, if you got audited, then you have your bank statements to show exactly how the money was used.
Okay.
That's exactly what we want to see.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes. Please, guys, use the money. Use the money just like it's intended. Both of them are intended to cover payroll. If that's, again, you can use the money 100% for payroll if that's what you want to do. Or, you know, for idle, if you just want to pay the expenses, that's fine. For PPP, just remember though, 60% of the money now has to be used for payroll. But you can use 100% of the PPP money for payroll if that's what you want to do. Particularly now that your business will be opening back up if it already hasn't under phase 1, 2, or 3. And so that revenue will be able to cover your business expense.
I got a question. I work contract to contract, not like a month-to-month paycheck. So I don't understand how this can apply to me. I don't think I can use this to pay myself a paycheck if I was previously working as a consultant working contract to contract under my LLC.
Yeah, you can, because you have a 1099. You get issued a 1099 when you're doing contracts because you're not on their payroll. So you submit your 1099 for PPP. You don't need to, actually, I'm trying to remember for idle, I don't think you have to for idle, but I know for PPP you do. So you just submit your 1099 and then whatever you can get, because the formula is taking the 1099, dividing that number by 12, multiplying it by 250% or 2.5, and that's the loan amount that you receive. Very, very easy formula.
What can I not spend SBA loan money on?
All right, so I've been talking for the last hour and 10 minutes about how the funds can be used. So this is gonna be the last time. PPP, payroll, rent, lease, water, gas, electric, business phone, internet, transportation. Really what they mean is fuel, interest on a commercial mortgage, idle, all the items that I just named, and payroll.
Okay, nothing else is in the chat.
But I want you to go get that money if you haven't applied.
Quick
Go
question.
get it.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, Sherry.
I'm sorry, guys. I get nervous when he said last chance for alcohol, last call.
It's
And
Friday
it seems like
afternoon.
you guys
isn't
are
it?
going to close. Hey, I was writing down the formula, and he said the 1099, what you make on the 1099 times 12.
Nope,
What was the formula?
Nope.
I know. That's why I'm asking.
See, this is why I'm glad you're asking.
Yes, I got to get it right.
Divided by 12 times 2.5.
Okay, what's divided by 12?
The number on the 1099.
Okay, your number on 1099. Hold on.
So you made $200,000 as a 1099. You're going to divide that number by 12 times 2.5. Let me get my handy dandy calculator out here and let's look at that.
Thank
example.
you so much. Divided by 12 times 2.5. Okay, but let's go ahead and do an example number.
So that would be 416, it's not going to be much, 416.66.
Got it. So I'm trying to do that 30,000 at that 3.75 over 30 years is $138.93. Yes, I'm taking notes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so
Okay.
so when you look at that, I mean, to me, that's not a lot of money for a monthly payment for a commercial loan. It just
It's not. It's ridiculous because who is going to give you that? Ever. Your credit score got to be through the roof. You've got to be in business for 1 billion years. And at the same time, once my company establishes that, ladies and gentlemen that might be scared, you're now establishing that credit. Someone talked earlier about the microloans. Now you're establishing that credit that we didn't have before. And that's one of the disparities, at least for me as a small woman-owned business, is yes, I can justify I'm a disabled because economic, abilities, but now I can build on this also at at 3.75 or 1 point or whatever, it's just better than anybody right now would be able to give me. So thank you guys.
Exactly.
You're welcome, Sherry.
Because yes, it's getting reported on a monthly basis. So Sherry, you're absolutely correct.
Yep.
Every time you make that loan payment, okay, 12 months from now, it's getting reported to Dun & Bradstreet.
Amen. So I'm building that credit, and I got money in the bank that I can work with.
Joelle just asked, why multiply by 2.5?
Okay.
Because they're looking at it as 2.5 months of working capital. That's just a formula they came up with.
Jerusalem asked, health insurance included at all? I'm not sure what she's.
Yeah, if you do a 941, then and it's included in your 941, which I think it is, then yes. Health insurance, bonus, 401k, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Hello, can I ask a quick question again?
Sure.
And all of this is on the frequently asked questions on the SBA website. So if you forget it and you haven't taken copious notes, then it is out on the SBA.gov website under frequently asked questions. Because I want you to have a place to go to just as, you know, a reminder in case you forget. So go ahead with your question.
Okay. All right. So Cynthia had asked if she had to file her taxes for 2018 and 2019 before applying. Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you need to show economic injury.
Okay. And even if you didn't make, like I didn't make any generate revenue, is that okay? I just show everything as a loss.
That's fine. Well, you generated revenue, or did you?
No, I didn't.
So all you did was have expenses.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fine.
Which means I didn't pay myself payroll either.
Okay, so you're going to be using this money to pay expenses.
Not for payroll.
Right.
And that's for the EIDL also?
EIDL.
I can't use it.
You haven't taken a salary.
Well, it's in my bookkeeping, but the funds weren't there to pay me.
Stick to paying the operating expenses.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I got another question. Can I request to use my business credit score instead of my personal credit?
No.
Nope.
It's FICO.
I think that's it. I think we're gonna.
The last lady, let's strategize a minute. So you haven't paid yourself a salary. So basically you're a startup. Is that correct?
Was that Myrtle?
Yes. Yeah, we started 2 years ago, and we were to launch our event in March of 2020 to be able to onboard everyone April 1st. But of course it didn't happen.
Well, you know what? As long as you were in business, you know, by February 15, 2020, then that's fine. What I probably would have done, I probably would have gone on unemployment and applied for EIDL so that I could use the loan funds to pay my operating expenses.
Okay.
That's how I would have probably worked that.
So I applied for EIDL. When EIDL wasn't coming through, I actually went on unemployment and got the PUA, which I'm on now, but I'm going to reapply for EIDL.
So
but
now,
the PUA, I believe, ceases.
Are you going to be able to open?
We'll be back up and running.
So you're going to be up and running. Are you going to take a salary?
Yes, as soon as I can.
Yeah, just be careful about the timing of that when you start paying yourself, because then you have to go off of unemployment.
Well, I believe the unemployment ceases July 30th, July 31st for the PUA.
Well,
so
no, the $600 stipend that you get on top of the regular unemployment ends then, but unemployment doesn't end.
I see.
Yeah, there's a difference. Unemployment doesn't end. It's just that $600 boost that people have been getting.
Okay.
This is going to be our last question. So, can you speak more? Can you speak more about which credit you are using, business or personal? I have a business credit card and I have a business account and a DUNS number, but I haven't checked, it's scrolling so fast. I haven't checked my business credit score ever. If it is somehow, if somehow it isn't high, can I use my personal credit?
So wait a minute. What do you need to use your personal credit for? Well, let's put it this way. For EIDL, no. They're looking at your FICO score. For PPP, your credit's not being checked at all. It's just for EIDL. Okay. So you have to use your FICO score, not the Dun & Bradstreet score.
Okay. All right, well, that's gonna conclude our Q&A today. The Disaster Assistance Service number is 1-800-659-2955. 1-800-659-2955. I would say operators are standing by, but I think there's more customers standing than operators at this point, unfortunately. And Rod, do you want to list those banks again?
Bank of America.
The 504 and the 7A?
Yep. Bank of America, Industrial Bank, City First Bank, JP Morgan, and Main Street Bank.
And tell them Rod sent you.
Yep, I know them all. Yep. But please have your package ready to go. And if you need assistance with putting a package together, Catherine right there to help you.
Okay.
Let's work Catherine during this pandemic.
I got nothing else to do, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm so glad that I'm in this capacity to help. My unemployment is still pending and I received EIDL advance. Will I be qualified to get back pay unemployment prior to EIDL?
Well, I guess they're going to pay you because I'm sure it took a long time for the unemployment to come through. So they're going to pay you up. They're going to pay you current, I should say. Back to current is what you're going to get for unemployment. Now, if you're going to use EIDL to pay yourself on payroll, then you need to stop the unemployment once you start paying yourself from the EIDL fund for payroll, okay? So yeah, I'm sure you'll get your unemployment, that's fine. It's not your fault that it took them a while to get it to you, but once you have it, and you start paying yourself from the EIDL funds, then you have to give up on the payroll. I mean the unemployment, sorry.
Okay, I'm really gonna sign us off now because I've overstayed our welcome and I do appreciate you giving us this time, Rod.
Oh yeah.
If you came to this Zoom by way of a referral from someone else and you're not a client of the DCWBC, please go to our website, dcwbc.org, and sign up to be a client. That way, when we have other opportunities to speak with Rod, you will be the first person to know. Thanks so much.
This was fun, and we need to host it. You know what? We need to host one of these after the 4th of July weekend so that we know if everybody's applied for PPP, if they got their money, and if they got EIDL, and if they applied to the, did I talk about the Main Street Lending Program? I think I did.
No.
I didn't?
No.
Man.
No.
All right, so see, all right, so before I go, or we go, there's a $600 billion loan fund that has not gotten a lot of publicity. It's a Federal Reserve Bank loan fund. They say it's for single member LLC, sole proprietors, and 1099s, as well as middle market companies, okay? And the minimum loan amount is $250,000. The maximum is $150 million. The repayment terms are 4 years. The interest rate is 2.5 to 4%. And actually you have to, there will be collateral and a personal guarantee that you have to offer, but having a PPP or EIDL doesn't preclude you from actually applying for this loan program. Now, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and JP Morgan so far are the banks that are offering the loans from the Federal Reserve. They're hoping that more banks will sign on, but it's just another round of financing that you can get, because if you've been following the news, what's the Senate Majority Leader's name? I forget his name.
Mitch McConnell?
That's terrible. Huh?
Are we talking about Mitch McConnell?
There you go. Thank you, Mitch McConnell. So Mitch McConnell has said, let's pump the brakes on a third round of PPP. So we don't know if there's going to be another round of PPP coming, although the House has passed a version of a third round of PPP. So what I'm telling people to do is, if you don't get PPP, then go ahead and look into the Federal Reserve Main Street Bank loan program, because that is another alternative to you, okay? But it's right now the big banks that are actually participating in that program. And then, of course, EIDL, there's $60 billion left.
All right. Thank you so much for helping our clients.
Yep.
And you heard it. He said he wants to come back, so we're going to get him on the calendar as soon as possible. Thank you for sharing your information on all the questions that you asked, help the other people who didn't ask. And so I appreciate all of the questions. Have a great evening and weekend. And we will soon. So keep an eye out for our emails.
All right, guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, team.
You're very, very welcome.
Thank you.